Alright, we're on our way to the Dirty 30 to ride the Filthy 50. We've got everything packed in the car. And there's not a lot of build up to this because last weekend was race day. This weekend is a race day. I took my bibs right out of the wash, put them back into the suitcase, and back right into the car. So we're on our way, and we're headed to Grand Rapids and then Saranac. So the Dirty 30 is kind of like coming home for me. It was the very first gravel event and very first bike exclusive event that I'd ever done back in 2020. Naturally in 2020 things were weird, but they still did a great job of putting on an event. So this is where I feel really comfortable. So I feel good to be out here doing a pre-ride. Trying to get it dialed in. Just a quick 50-minute ride. I got 10 miles. I forgot that the start of this race is like primarily uphill. So the group, whatever group there is from the mass start, will most likely blow apart in the first mile. It's also really chunky for the first bit, and after that the roads are like pavement flat. So I think I have to go into it really warmed up, and also just expecting to go as hard as I can for like 15 minutes or so, and then try to settle in, because then it's just fast. It's so fast. Okay, cool. See you tomorrow. The biggest fear for me today is that I cramp up and I can't finish the race comfortably. I just want to be able to put out the power that I know I have. That's really what I want. I also have a goal of just trying to stick on the wheels in front of me, because I feel like I lose a lot to just not drafting properly. Here we go. This is the start of the Filthy 50 race at the Dirty 30. A lot of different options for distances. Everything from the Unclean 16, the Dirty 30, the Filthy 50 mile, and then they had an extra dirty 130 mile distance. They left 3 hours before us because of just how long it was going to take to finish that race. But here's the 50. I'm doing this one because it's part of the long course series in the Michigan Gravel Race Series. Now the MGRS for me really validates any position that I can get, so I'm hammering up this climb. I'm not going to be wrestling for the win today, but I am going to be fighting for every single position that I can get, because every position is worth more points, and if I have more points, I could potentially end up at the end of the season with a little plaque that says, hey, you did a good job. So that's why I'm fighting hard. I want that plaque at the end of the season. So I'm chasing down every single rider I can get. I see these riders here and I'm thinking maybe they're the ones I want to ride with for the rest of the race. I mean, 50 miles is a long way to go on your own, but I'm putting down more power to try to get to the next group, and then the next group, so on and so forth, until eventually we get to the top of this initial starting climb, and I find myself with one rider. He's got an RG kit on, and he's really saving my life here, because I'm getting to draft a bit and he's still pulling his way up to these riders here just in front of us. Now if we can all coalesce, perhaps we can ride together. That's my hope. And I do know that there's a descent, because I did ride this the night before. I know this downhill leads into a flat section, then an uphill. If I can use the momentum from this downhill, I can coast my way, or power my way, right up to those riders. And that's the plan. That's what I want to do. And then we'll go from there, because by the time I get there, I am going to be exhausted, and there's a lot of racing yet to come. Now these riders are going to be important for the day. We've got the rider in the green jacket. He's actually got a YouTube channel as well. You can see his perspective. I'll link it down below. We also have the rider on the left in an Athletic Mentors kit. There's also a Base Media rider right here as well. Anytime you see a Base Media kit, you know that something serious is going on. So here we go. Look at this. We've got an actual group. This is like the first time I've been in a legit group that is about to start working together, and I am so excited. I'm half wheeling. I'm drafting as much as I can because I don't want to lose this group. This is awesome. Look, the green jacket rider flicks us through, red and black jersey rider flicks through, and we're rotating. This is actually riding. This is actually racing. I feel like I am actually part of a group that has the goal in mind of being fast and racing fast. Now I get on the front, and I have to highlight this because at the Paris-Roubaix, I didn't get to help anyone at all. I felt I was just a wheel sucker. I just was always on someone else's wheel. But today, I am helping. I am doing work, and it feels so good to be a part of that. Now, 9 miles in, this is the first time that I get to see the power of the group. To see the RG riders in front, second wheel is a rider on a Rapha kit, then the Athletic Mentors rider, and the riders that I mentioned before are just behind me. But look at this, we are going to wind up and climb this little hill well over 300 watts, and I'm not gaining. It's not like I'm closing anything down. I'm just sustaining my position in the group. I'm having fun at this point, but these efforts, they build up and they're going to come back to get me at some point. But for now, I am having the time of my life. This is the best. So 14.6 miles in, we've got the 30-mile riders. They started 5 minutes after us. And fortunately, it took them a little while to get to us. So the group's not huge, but there are quite a few riders coming past us. Some of the riders are actually starting to blend into us a little bit. Now, I don't know how long we are going to have to ride with them. I don't know if some of my 50-mile group mates are going to try to jump into this bigger 30-mile group and get away. That would make a lot of sense, especially because there's more people to draft off of. So I'm sort of just sitting here, still putting out power, trying to hold on, and I'm just going to wait and see what happens. If I have to, I'll jump onto this group, but if my 50-mile group mates are not going to jump on the group, then I will not either. Again, it's really important to note they're halfway done with their race. We still have about 35 miles to go. It's going to be important that I, try to keep that in mind and stay fresh, but also not lose all the wheels that I have to surf off of. We eventually sort of become a group, and some riders actually get stuck behind us. You'll see there's a couple of additional riders here. We've picked up a fat bike rider just in front of the base media kit rider, and then there are some 30-mile riders mixed in here also, but we are about to split ways. We're going to go left here, and the 30-milers are going to go right. You can see the base media rider signaling that we're going left. I read the signs. My Garmin's also telling me we're going left, so I'm good. But I had this thought while riding, geez, I am glad that they are motioning to go left, because what if I went with the 30-milers? And then the guy in the red and black kit, I think that he goes with the 30-milers. Now, I don't know if he finished the 30-mile race or if he turned around at some point, but I'm sure there's a story there to be had. Nonetheless, we're back to our group. We're missing the Rapha kit rider. He actually soloed away from us, and when the 30-milers caught him, he got up the road a little bit further for those 3 miles that they were with us. But we've gained the fat bike rider, so we're still sitting, I think, 7 strong. The Athletic Mentors rider here has been pulling for a bit. It's about to be my turn. My heart rate's at a good place. I'm happy to pull across this flat section. Now you can tell there's a hill in the distance. Hills are sort of hard to see on video, but you can tell it's down there. And I really should not have pulled that entire time. Maybe half the distance to it. But I did. And then this fat bike rider lights it up. So I've just done my pull. I've been soloing it in the front, and he puts out this effort. The whole group can do it, but I am struggling over 500 watts there. And we're on a little bit of a hill. It's not a huge hill, but it's enough to where if he's putting out power, I am getting very little benefit from the riders around me. I was pretty concerned that I was going to be dropped right here at this moment. Fortunately, there's still a couple of people behind me, and the pace does eventually ease up a bit, and I'm able to stay with this group. Then, just a couple miles later, I do not know why, but I was in the drops, and I wanted to climb in the drops up this little hill. It was about to be my time to pull anyways, so I thought I would just make a little acceleration around here and start my pull. But I spiked up the power a little bit too much and actually opened up a tiny gap. Now there's also another important aspect to this to discuss at this point. We are at 21 miles in, okay? I have 2 bottles on my bike. Now this group doesn't appear to be stopping anywhere, so I am almost done with my first bottle. It's almost completely gone. So I'm trying to stretch just a few sips for the next 4 miles, so that way I can then switch bottles, use the second bottle for the last 25 miles. At 26 miles, you'll see that there's a speck in the distance. That's actually the rider in the Rafa kit who had soloed away earlier. I don't know why. For some reason, when I saw him and saw he was coming back to us, I wanted to be the one to catch him. He's coming back willingly, of course, because he doesn't want to ride this last 25 miles on his own, I'm sure. But it was sort of a carrot to chase for me, and it was good motivation to get on the front and put in some work. So when I get to him, I sit up, he sits up. Neither of us want to do anything, so the rest of the group has to take over, and they do. And they get us to this climb, which really hurts. In fact, this is the first time that my legs start to tell me that I've been overdoing it today, and I'm asking a little bit too much of them, just like I did at the Barra-Roubaix, and my right leg starts to have twinges of what feel like cramps at my knee and at my hip. I can start to feel those early signs, and that does not bode well for me. I'm trying to do the absolute minimum that I have to stay in the group and keep my position, but that is still over my functional threshold power, and that's hard. It's a hard little climb that we have to do here. I'm starting to do some math. You know, how long do I have to ride alone? It'd be 20 miles at this point that I'd be soloing or waiting until another group catches me, but we've been going so quickly, I don't have any idea how close the next person is if I were to fall off this group. So we get on the flat and I get to draft a bit, and I start skipping poles because my legs hurt. And just less than a mile later, I'm on the back, and things are taking a turn for the worst. You'll see my power is dropping. It's down to 170, 160, 150. My right leg is cramping up, and then I jack the power up to try to catch back on, and then it cramps again, and I jack the power up again, 300 watts, to try to close that gap. And my body is fighting me so hard. It is not letting me just get up onto that wheel. We're also dealing with a bit of a crosswind here, so I'm not getting a ton of draft effects. And at this point, I have one more good effort in me. 340 watts. I just need to close this gap. But it's not gonna happen. And they ride away from me. And I start thinking of, you know, I've driven 4 hours to do this. I'm taking time off of work to be here, and I'm getting dropped, and I'm frustrated because just last weekend I had to do this exact same thing. And I'm pretty broken. 150 watts is the most I can muster at the moment. My heart rate's coming down, which is good. But I'm watching my group that I was riding with ride away from me around this bend, and they're gone. Then I come around this bend, and I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and the group's still there. They're not that far away. They're just up the road, and I decide I am going to die on this hill. This group is where I need to be. So if I can get there, great. If I can't, I'm gonna give it absolutely everything I can to try to get back there. Now we're gonna turn here, and I'm pretty sure that we end up getting a tailwind on this next road, and I'm hoping that will help me out. I also noticed that on the turn, the group really slowed down, so I assumed it was pretty bumpy or holy or something. So I take it from edge to edge as fast as I can, not knowing what's coming up. I run right through a bunch of potholes and some more potholes. I don't care. I get up, 400 watts, and I'm gonna close this gap down. I've got a tailwind now, so they're not benefiting a whole lot from draft, and I'm getting a lot of help from the wind. And lo and behold, I find my way back almost half a mile later onto the group, and I feel so good. I am so pumped. I'm thinking about what I'm gonna say in the video. I'm thinking about the story I get to tell my girlfriend afterwards, and I am so jacked. This is great. I don't have to ride the last 20 miles alone. Let's do this. So we catch up to this rider, and he had been struggling, it seemed, so a couple of riders go around him. I just made that big effort to try to chase back onto this group, so I really don't have any way to close down a gap if I need to. I made it a little acceleration there, but he seemed like he was going to close it, and then he doesn't, and that gap starts to grow even more. This is especially concerning because the Rafa Kit rider and the Base Media rider are in that group of 3 that are just getting away from us, and I kind of pegged them as 2 of the biggest threats out of our group. And that gap continues to grow, but I don't really have the punch to just close that gap and get around him. I have to use him as draft right now because I am still suffering. I mean, I wasn't dropped for no reason. And the gap again edges out even more. Now there's still riders behind me, and I imagine they're getting impatient, and it's really going to be up to them for me to get across this gap now. It's clear that this rider is pretty much done. He's not going to close it down, which is fair. He was dropped. I totally get it. So the rider in the green jacket and the fat bike rider, they shoot across that gap, no problem. That leaves one rider behind me, the Athletic Mentors guy, and I'm hoping he comes by slowly so I can get on his wheel. And I do. I get up there, and he closes this gap down, or tries to. I'm drafting 130, 140 watts. This is exactly what I needed. If he weren't there, I would have been in trouble. Now I did think to myself, well, I guess that myself and the guy who we had just passed could probably ride together if need be, but I would much rather be in the original group. So this guy does a great job, really putting down power. Got to dodge some potholes here, but he essentially brings me back to the group. Now at this point, I'm a little confused because my Garmin is telling me that I'm going the wrong way, but actually there's a tunnel that goes under the highway, and it is so cool. Check this out. I didn't get to enjoy it in the moment. Watching the video back, this is such a cool feature. The fat bike guy goes for a wheelie for a photo op. That was surprising because to have the power to try to do a wheelie at that moment, I was shocked. So we are 42 miles into this race, and we're still with this group that we've been with since mile 2. Now we're a little bit spread out here because we are coming up to a very steep hill. Now there is a feature in this course called Ivan the Terrible, and that is sort of the featured climb. Now I didn't look at the course very closely. I've ridden this race before, but never the 50 mile. I've always done the 30 mile. So I'm thinking that maybe this is Ivan the Terrible. And in fact, I get up to this rider, the RG rider, and I'm asking him if it's Ivan, and he's looking at me confused because he doesn't know that there's a hill called anything here. So he's like, maybe, I don't know. So I settled with this being Ivan the Terrible. You'd think I'd remember that from previous races, but I'm oxygen depleted. I'm gonna go with that. Anyways, we end up back together over that hill, and I think we're done with climbing. I think that we're good. I'm starting to think about the sprint, how I can save myself, and we come over this hill, and you can tell you're up high because you can see the horizon off in the distance. And we start heading down, and again, video doesn't do elevation justice, but we are about to be flying down this hill. So we hit 30 miles an hour pretty comfortably. In previous years, I had hit the brakes coming down this particular hill because it was too fast and I didn't feel comfortable. But this year, I am in race mode, so I want to go as fast as I can down this thing. So we're creeping up on 40 miles an hour, and we eventually hit 40 miles an hour on a bicycle. I've ridden motorcycles and things, but 40 miles an hour on a pedal bike on a dirt road is a completely different experience. It was amazing. I love it. Fortunately, the road is in pretty good condition. Actually, the whole day, there was potholes and things to deal with, but the majority of the course was in excellent shape. So the group's all here. We've got the Green Jacket Rider, the RG Rider, Base Media, Rafa Kit, the Athletic Mentors, and then also the Fat Bike Rider had joined us. We are all here. And I thought that was Ivan the Terrible back there, right? Oh, look, a street sign. What's it say? It says Ivan. And then I start doing this like mental calculation, like, oh, I didn't know we were on Ivan twice. That's weird. Wait, oh no. And I realized that this is Ivan the Terrible. It's on Ivan Road, and that's why that's called Ivan the Terrible. So we begin the ascent of the hardest climb of the day at 45.5 miles. Now I'm pretty sure I'm not going to make it with this group. The Rafa rider, who's been sitting in with us, doing plenty of work, but I think this was his plan, he bolts away immediately. Now I'm still doing a good amount of power here. Heart rate's in a pretty good place, but my legs haven't been stellar since mile 30, where I had that little issue with the cramping. So any power I can get out here is really the best that I can do. So the high 200s is stellar for me, and I'm loving it. So I'm going to let you enjoy some of Ivan the Terrible here. So we get to the top of this first hill, and I'm seeing red. This is a flat, slightly downhill section, and I just need to breathe and spin easy for a moment. I've got a couple of riders still with me that I can hopefully work with should we get over the top of this next hill, as you can see. Now, I'd love to be able to put down a burst of effort and get up to the front of the group, but I'm still really on the edge here. I've gained a couple of beats per minute back, but we're going to go back up to 180 in no time. All right, we reached the top of this hill, right? Done. Job done. Let's get on the wheel, and we can bring back these three riders. They're not that far up ahead. And I'm feeling a little bit of relief at this moment. And then we cross this hill, and there's another hill, and it looks scary steep. So we do get a tiny descent here, a little bit more recovery, but this last hill is a killer. And this is all part of Ivan. It feels like rollers, but it's really just a continuous punching climb. You can tell by the size of the road how it's cut out of this hill to make it drivable, and in this case rideable. Still over 300 watts, 46 miles into this race, and I'm happy with that output. I'm a little disappointed that I'm losing my group mates, but I'm happy with the power. It's the best I can do. The rider in the RG kit puts out this monumental effort to get up this hill, and he's going to actually catch up to those three riders in the front. So if I could have stayed with him somehow, I might have made it as well. But I, alas, do not, unfortunately. So it's myself and the rider on the left here. We're getting a photo shot. There's a guy giving out high fives right here. And I was pretty jazzed to be at the top of this hill, so I definitely took advantage of that. But now, we need to try to chase. This rider and I, the Athletic Mentors rider, we have got to try to get back to those people who just got away from us. I know the roads get really fast near the end, and then we actually finish on pavement. So he and I work together really well, taking turns. But we do not see that group come back. You see him in the very distance there. It's not like we're not riding hard, but they're just not coming back to us. This gravel is almost like Strade Bianche style gravel. It's sort of like white, but it's really hard packed, just like pavement. Super fast. still taking turns. Very appreciative to have that. Now, we are coming up on the finish very quickly. We have to run this straight pavement and then a right turn, and there's the finish. Now, I could have played games and just sat on his wheel the whole time, gotten to the turn, and then sprinted out of it. But we've been working together so well all day, and in the finishing parts of this race, it only seemed fair that I pull him into or down this straight, and then I get to choose my line into the corner. And if he is able to come around me after that corner, more power to him. He totally earned it. So I'm willing to sit on the front here and do this effort into this corner. So I go all the way to the left. I don't want to slow down at all if I don't have to. I swing all the way right and then all the way back to the left side of the road. And it is power on from here out. 600 watts is the most I can muster. My legs are cramping up as we speak, but I'm jamming it out because I need to get to that finish line. And I'm expecting him fully to come around me on the left side. I thought I could hear his tires passing me, but fortunately, I am able to hold the position. And that is the job done, and it feels good, and I am so pumped about this race. Right after the race, I needed a good minute to just stare at the ground, let it all sink in. Shortly after, I looked at my power, and I had averaged 203 watts over the 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I had a normalized power of 226 watts, which is excellent. It's some of the best power I've ever done for that time. I also got to meet more people who've checked out the channel, and I love it because it's like a free pass to talk to people that you wouldn't otherwise get to talk to at these events. We couldn't hang out for too long. We had a good 3-4 hour drive home, so we packed up, got home, and the last thing there was to do was just clean the bike off and get it ready for the next one, which I think is the Waterloo Grit and Gravel on April 30th. So maybe we'll see you there. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.